Hey boys and girls, welcome to another session of Math Exploration with Mrs. Iredale. So good to have you here with me. Today we're going to look at a word problem. And from the word problem, we're going to think about what it is it's asking us to do and how we can solve it. So the question is, Aiden walked 2/5 of a mile and Waylon walked 1/2 of a mile. Who walked the longest distance? Well, this is a comparison problem. It would be similar to if we said Aiden walked 1 mile and Waylon walked 3. Who walked the most? The guy who had the highest quantity. But this time we're going to have to compare fractions. And unfortunately, the numerators aren't the same and the denominators aren't the same. So we are comparing unlike denominators. How do we go about solving this problem? Well, the first thing we want to do is we always want to remember that our wholes have to be the same size, okay? And let's see here. Let's say that Aiden, we're going to put an A to represent Aiden. He walked 2/5 of a mile. And we know that Waylon over here, he walked 1/2 of a mile. So really what this question is asking us to do is to compare these two distances, these two quantities. The best way for you to compare two quantities is to create two rectangles side by side. Miss Iredale just made one rectangle. Boy, that's bad. I'm going to fix that a little. We're going to have two rectangles side by side. This is going to represent Aiden, and this one's going to represent Waylon, okay? So we know that our whole is the same size. That's the most important thing. This whole represents our mile, okay? Now, we have to look at the denominator to see how we're going to break these boxes up. And because they're different denominators, we're going to break the boxes up differently, okay? So Aiden was 2/5. What number tells us how much to break the whole up in? What number is that? That's our denominator. Our denominator always tells you how many pieces to break the whole into. So if Aiden, we're going to be measuring his in fifths, we have to break Aiden's box up into 5 equal parts. So Miss Iredale is going to try to do her very best on that. And you're going to eyeball it, and you may be unhappy with something. And if you are unhappy and you can just look at it and you know that those units aren't the same size, you need to erase it and do it again. You want to be as accurate as you can when doing mathematics, okay? So I'm pretty happy with that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal pieces. Now Waylon's is going to be a lot easier because it's an even number, which means I can cut my whole in half, okay? And I figure about the halfway point is about right there. I think I did pretty good on that one. There are 2 equal parts. I've cut my whole into halves, okay? So how many halves are there in a whole? 1, 2. Now, let's go on and shade them in. Let's get 2 different color of ink. So we know that Aiden walked 2/5. So that tells me the numerator tells me that I'm going to shade in 2 of the parts. And we know that Waylon walked 1 out of 2 parts. Now I think that we can see that if this were the beginning of the mile, we were at 0 here, and when they ran a whole mile. So think about distance. Who ran the farthest? Waylon did. Waylon, 1/2 is larger than 2/5. And if you were answering this as a short answer response, you would want to write that out completely. 1/2 of a mile is further than 2/5 of a mile. Happy learning. See you next time.